Hi everyone, thank you for tuning in to another video. This week's video is going to be on Bank of Canada's interest rate announcement, which happened on March 6th, 2024, where they held the overnight rate yet again at 5%. This is the fifth time that they've held rates, so I'm going to be going over a little bit of what's to come, what the language from Tiff Macklem and Bank of Canada was around rate cuts, what the market's priced in, what the market had priced in before, and how Canada's budget announcement is maybe going to affect interest rate announcements and hikes versus cuts versus holds going forward. So let's get into it. So as stated, Bank of Canada held rates at 5% for the fifth time in a row. This really wasn't a surprise to people in the real estate industry, people in the financial industry. This was kind of a shoe-in for a rate hold just because inflation ticked up a little bit last month. It's remained sticky, as the economists say, and the government and Bank of Canada's language around this was, we need these rate hikes and elevated interest rates to do their work and take a little bit more time to make sure that inflation doesn't tick back up. We've been at 5% overnight rate since July 12th of 2023. So these rates are working their way through the economy. We've seen slower economy growth. Tiff Macklem states that our economy is in a small excess of supply, which basically is saying we have a little bit more supply than we do demand. So these rates are working their way through economy, but they're taking time, and Bank of Canada is being very proactive that they don't jump the gun too soon and decrease rates and then spending goes up. One of the reasons we see the economy slowing is we have lower employment growth than we do immigration, basically meaning we have less new jobs coming to the market as we do new people coming into the country. We're also seeing less pressure on wage growth, although wage growth still remains elevated, about 4 to 5%. There's indicators that wage growth is decreasing because the demand for jobs is higher. There's a smaller pool of jobs and a larger pool of people competing for those jobs, which I'm even seeing, and I feel like people are seeing day to day. It's like more people are looking for work. People are being less demanding. If you look at like a contractor, they're less busy. Their prices are maybe a little bit lower because they're just looking for work, right? And this is in all fields. People are just a little bit less busy, so they're less demanding. It's supply and demand. We also see shelter prices still increased. And there's been a lot of talk around this that shelter prices are kind of propping up inflation and CPI, but the governor did talk about this and say that the numbers that they're looking at are core inflation or median inflation, which basically shelter would be one of the high items on that list. So when they're looking at the inflation numbers and making their decisions, they're actually not taking shelter into account for a lot of these calculations. Another thing to touch on that doesn't get really touched on that much and is very important is the US economy. So the US economy is still very strong, a lot stronger than Canada's economy, and more resilient and stronger than a lot of people have predicted. So as far as the countries being on the horizon of rate cuts, Canada is much closer to wanting or needing to cut rates than the US is. The problem is if Canada cuts rates and the US doesn't cut rates, that devalues the Canadian currency, which obviously is not good for Canadians. At the beginning of the year, the market was pricing in up to a 1.25 basis point decrease in interest rates. Now we're priced in about a 0.75 rate decrease, which may even be high. We have 6 rate announcements left from now until the end of 2024. The federal budget comes out on April 16th of 2024. The next rate announcement is on April 10th. So the likelihood that Bank of Canada decides to cut rates before the federal budget is announced is, in my opinion, very low. Economists are predicting that the federal budget is going to be running at about a $40 billion deficit. And when an economy runs in a deficit, that means sometimes they need to print more money to get out of that deficit. And obviously we know from the past that printing money is inflationary. So if they cut rates on April 10th and then print a bunch of money, we're going to see elevations in inflation definitely going into the summer and fall of 2024. So in my opinion, they will hold rates at the next announcement. We're going to see our federal budget come in running at a deficit. They'll likely hold rates again. So If we are seeing cuts, again, I really don't think we're going to see them until into the summer, late summer or fall of this year. And my opinion, not 0.75 basis points of rate declines. So that's a quick recap of what happened at the Bank of Canada meeting on March 6th, 2024. Hopefully you found this video informative. Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for next week's video.